Today we commence the 4th chapter of Beehive, a truly beautiful mind. Now, a truly beautiful mind of a wonderful personality. Can you guess who's he? If you look at him, I guess some of you have got it. Yes, that's Albert Einstein. Let's have a look at the plot. A truly beautiful mind gives us a brief life history of a great scientist, Albert Einstein. As a child, he had no signs of greatness. So when he was small, he did not show any particular signs. His mother thought that he was a freak. Freak as in sort of an abnormal child. And why so? When he started speaking, he spoke everything twice. Whatever he spoke it twice. He was boring for other children. Now, obviously, the normal ones would feel that this is very boring. He'll keep repeating the same word. So, he played by himself much of the time. The headmaster told his father that Einstein would never make a success at anything. His father, the headmaster had told Einstein's father that, look, your son does not have the capacity to make a success story. It's very difficult for him, not possible. But later in life, he proved as a scientific genius. Yes, today he is renowned scientist. The whole world knows him as Albert Einstein. In 1915, he published his general theory of relativity, which provided a new interpretation of gravity. His work was considered a scientific revolution. So when he brought it, when he actually discovered it, there was a revolution, right? There was a big change, and that was the scientific revolution. That is what he did. So let us get into the chapter and know more about him. It's really good to know about such people because at times you feel, even right now, maybe in a particular subject, maybe maths, you hate figures, or no, don't tell me English, I will not accept it. Anything else, maybe you don't like formulas and stuff like that for chemistry and all. But later you never know. You have just no idea. So, don't draw conclusions and don't build walls in your head that, oh, nothing to do with maths. Maths is just not for me. So don't do that, yeah? So right now you will have to anyways do all your subjects. You don't stand an option right now. So let's go with it. Albert Einstein was born on 14th March 1879 in the German city of Ulm without any indication that he was destined for greatness. Now, he was born in 1879 and he was born in a German city without any indication. There was no sign. There was no, nothing showing, nothing that he did showed that he would be really great. He would be, definitely achieve greatness. There were no signs as such. On the contrary, in contrast or opposite, his mother thought Albert was a freak, an unusual or a weird person, sort of an abnormal person. To her, his head seemed much too large. She felt his head is actually too large for his age. As compared to the other children, his head was way larger. At the age of 2.5, Einstein still wasn't speaking. Now, by one, they start saying words which you don't understand, the children, and gradually then they start mama, papa, and dada. Simple words they start. But for him it was 2.5 years he was, and still he had not started speaking. When he finally did learn to speak, he uttered everything twice. Now when he actually started speaking, then what happened? Whatever he would say, utter means said. Whatever he would say it twice. Einstein did not know what to do with other children. He had no idea. And his playmates called him Brother Boring. Now that was really mean. See, these things are not, it's not your fault. Now it wasn't his fault, was it? He had it. I mean, that was God gifted. He did not put it, nobody would want such a thing. Nobody would want to be a weird person or an odd person, right? Nobody ever wants to be the black sheep. Black sheep is the odd person. So his playmates, as in, his friends who would play with, they called him Brother Boring. Please know these terms. You will get it maybe for 1 mark, So these things should be remembered. So the youngster played by himself much of the time. He enjoyed with himself. Now, obviously, when no one wants to play with you, you cannot force anyone to do so. So he would just play by himself. He especially loved mechanical toys. He did not like those simple toys, generally with cricket and, the bat and the ball and stuff. He wanted mechanical toys. Looking at his newborn sister, when his sister was newly born, they named her Maja. He is said to have said, that time when he saw his little sister, the newborn baby, he said, "Fine, but where are her wheels?" He says, "Oh, that's fine." So for him, she was a toy without wheels. A headmaster once told his father that what Einstein chose as a profession, he says, the headmaster told him that whatever he takes up as a profession, right, wouldn't matter. He can take anything he likes because he'll never make a success at anything. He says, let him take anything he wants. It doesn't make a difference because he's not going to be successful at it. He's not going to, deal with it and achieve something out of it. It's not going to make any difference. Nevertheless, Einstein began learning to play the violin at the age of 6 because his mother wanted him to. He later became a gifted amateur violinist, maintaining this skill throughout his life. Now, at the age of 6, he started playing the violin, and actually his mom really, wanted him to. She says, no, he should know something, and so he did so, and he became a gifted amateur. You know what's an amateur, right? He was non-professional. He didn't do it at a professional level. Just as a layman, he was playing it, right? As a violinist, he was playing the violin, and he maintained this skill. He actually kept it up. He was doing it throughout his life. He did not leave it. But Albert Einstein was not a bad pupil. He was not a bad student. He went to high school in Munich, where Einstein's family had moved when he was 15 months old. Now, he went to a high school in Munich where his family actually was. They had shifted when he was 15 months old. So that's basically 1 year, 3 months. And he scored good marks in almost every subject. So at that point of time, he was okay. He scored good marks in every subject. Einstein hated the school's regimentation and often clashed with his teachers. Now the problem there was, he was studying well. He was scoring good marks in all subjects. But he did not like the school's strict system. The system, that pattern which the school was working on, very strict one, he did not like it. And so he always landed up arguing. He always, was disagreeing with his teachers. That's the reason he had a lot of issues when he was in high school in Munich. Then it just went on. At the age of 15, Einstein felt so stifled, he felt so suffocated there that he left the school for good. Finally, now, when he was young, he took it. He took how much he could. But now, by the age of 15, you have grown into your senses. You have grown big. Yeah, you understand everything. So by then, he actually felt now it's too much. Now I do not take more of these rules and regulations. I took enough. Now no longer. So he actually left the school for good. The previous year, Albert's parents had moved to Milan. Milan, it's a place in Europe. And left their son with relatives. Now, they had gone there the previous year, but they left him with the relatives. After prolonged discussion, after a very, very, very long discussion, a discussion which continued for a very long time, Einstein got his wish to continue his education in German-speaking Switzerland, in a city which was more liberal than Munich. Finally, after a great discussion, he got his wish to do what? To continue his education in German-speaking Switzerland. There they used to speak German. Yeah. Now, in a city that was way more liberal, it was actually way more willing to understand and respect others' opinions, unlike his high school. Here, they would actually, understand your feelings, your opinions, they would respect it, and they were willing to understand you as well. So he was finally happy. Einstein was highly gifted in mathematics and interested in physics. We are all aware. And after finishing school, he decided to study at a university in Zurich. So after he completed here, then he moved on further to Zurich to a university there. But science wasn't the only thing that appealed to the dashing young man with the walrus mustache. Now, science was not the only thing. It was not just science all the time. It wasn't the only thing that appealed, that attracted or made him interesting to the dashing, to the stylish young man with a walrus mustache. Now, look at this gentleman's mustache. You've seen a walrus, yeah? So that is why they call this a walrus mustache, right? Just look at the mustache. He's not this thing. He also felt a special interest in a fellow student. Now, a fellow student is, when you are with someone doing a particular activity. So, yeah, he actually had special interest in someone, and that was Mileva Marek, whom he found to be a clever creature. He found her really clever. He said, oh, she seems really intelligent. This young Serb as in a native of Serbia, had come to Switzerland because the university in Zurich was one of the few in Europe where women could get degrees. Now, not all, it was then, not currently obviously. It was then that actually only some universities allowed women to come for their degrees, right? So even she was from Serbia and she had come to the university again, which was one of the few in Europe where women could get their degrees, their certified courses. Einstein saw in her an ally. He found her very suitable as a partner. He felt, that they have common interest. He said they both like the same things. So somewhere he felt that they could be good partners. Against the Philistines. Now, Philistines, what do you mean? People who do not like art, literature, or music. It was against it. Those people in his family and at the university with whom he was constantly at odds, with whom he was constantly in conflict, always fighting, arguing, always with them. The couple fell in love. They both started loving each other. So it was Mileva Marek. Letters survive as in even today they last. The letters that they had exchanged, they had written to each other, in which they put their affection, their love into words. Now, whatever, how you generally, today it's the world, it's the time where you, give messages, you have a WhatsApp message or you do that. But then they were letters. So they would express their love, their feelings in the form of words. We even do that now, don't we? Then it was letters. Now you just WhatsApp a message. Affection into words, mixing science with tenderness. They would mix it with kindness. They would mix science along with kindness. Wrote Einstein, what did he write? How happy and proud I shall be when we both have brought our work on relativity to a victorious conclusion. He says, I'm going to be really happy and really proud when both of us, now they were both in the same university, right? So he says, when we both have brought our work on relativity, they were both working on relativity, they were working on the same project, to a victorious conclusion. We shall, actually make this a triumphant conclusion, a triumphant end, a victorious end. We're going to do that. In 1900, at the age of 21, Albert Einstein was a university graduate. He actually successfully completed a course of training, right? He became a graduate and unemployed. He did not have a paid job. He was not earning. He worked as a teaching assistant as in an individual who assists a teacher. So, a teaching assistant, gave private lessons and finally he got a job in 1902 as a technical expert as in involving applied sciences. He became a specialist, in the patent office in Bern. Now, patent office as in the document of rights to an invention belonging to an inventor. So there, all the documents used to come of all the inventors, whatever inventions they were making, and it belonged to them. So he was there. Now, while he was supposed to be assessing other people's inventions, now he was working there. He was supposed to, look at and go through those documents of other people's inventions, assessing as in evaluating, and inventions are creations. Einstein was actually developing his own ideas in secret. Now, he was the smart one. He was at the office to do a particular job. But instead of doing that job, you know what he was doing? He was getting his own ideas. He was working on his own ideas in secret. Nobody knew about it. He is said to have jokingly called his desk drawer at work the Bureau of Theoretical Physics. So because he was hidingly working over there, what did he do is he jokingly called his desk drawer, his table where he was there, or the drawer because that's where he would do his work, the Bureau of Theoretical Physics. That's the bureau, the desk, Bureau, actually, if you look at French, it means office also and it means desk. So it's the Bureau of Theoretical Physics. That's where he started writing all about it. One of the famous papers of 1905 was Einstein's special theory of relativity, according to which time and distance are not absolute. Absolute as in they cannot be measured in itself, not in relation to anything else. Now, we are all aware, of all his inventions. So this is where he did it. In 1905, his special theory of relativity, according to which time and distance, they are not absolute, as in they are not measured in itself. Indeed, two perfectly accurate clocks, accurate as in exact, two perfectly accurate clocks will not continue to show the same time if they come together again after a journey, if one of them has been moving very fast relative to the other. Now, he gave an example. What was it? How did he do that? He says, if you take two accurate, the exact clocks, starting with the same time, what will happen is they will not continue to show the same time if they come together again. Again, after 10 minutes also, or maybe, 15 minutes, maybe half an hour, or still more time. If you will bring them, they will not show the same time again after a journey if one of them has been moving very fast relative to the other. So it depends on their movement, the speed. From this followed the world's most famous formula, which describes the relationship between mass and energy. We all know E is equal to mc square, where E is energy, m is mass, and c is the speed of light in a vacuum. This is how he actually started working on this and he finally achieved it. While Einstein was solving the most difficult problems in physics, his private life was unraveling. Unraveling as in his private life began to fail. He started working so much that he did not realize that his private life was getting ruined. It was actually not working. Albert had wanted to marry Mileva right after finishing his studies, but his mother was against it. His mother did not want him to marry her. She thought Mileva, who was 3 years older than her son was too old for him. Now she was 3 years elder to Einstein. She was also bothered by Mileva's intelligence. It was actually troubling her that she is way more clever than her son. She is a book like you, his mother said. He says she is just a book like you. Einstein put the wedding off. It did not happen. The pair finally married in January 1903 and had 2 sons. But a few years later, the marriage faltered. What do you mean by faltered? It became weak. That bond was not still strong. What was the problem? Mileva, meanwhile, was losing her intellectual ambition and becoming an unhappy housewife. Now, they had 2 children. Being the lady, being a mother to 2 children wasn't easy. You cannot manage. You can balance, but initially when the children are born, the mother has to be with the child, right? You have to take care of the child till a certain age where they grow up, and then you're free enough. But till then you have to do that. And while she was doing that, the problem is she realized she was losing her intellectual ambition, as in her mental ability and her desire to achieve something. That thing what she strongly wanted was actually getting weaker and weaker. And all that she felt was she was an unhappy housewife. After years of constant fighting, the fights kept going on. The couple finally divorced in 1919. So basically, their marriage lasted for 16 years. Yeah. Einstein married his cousin Elsa the same year. Now, he got married to someone else, and that was his cousin Elsa. He got married to her the same year. Same year as in 1919. Einstein's new personal chapter coincided with his rise to world fame. Now, at that particular time, at the same time, his new personal chapter as in personal means he got married to Elsa, right? So that part of his life and his rise to the world fame, where he became famous in the world, they coincided, as in they happened at the same time. In 1915, he had published his general theory of relativity, which provided a new interpretation of gravity. Now, while he was with Mileva, that time, during those years only, he had published his general theory of relativity. What had happened, that provided a few interpretation, as in a new interpretation, a new explanation of gravity. Gravity, we all know, the force that attracts, to the earth, to the center of the earth. Now, an eclipse of the sun in 1919. Now, this he had done it in 1915. Then everything happened in 1919. He got divorced. Then he got married to Elsa. What had happened? An eclipse. We all know what's an eclipse. The obscuring of the light from one celestial body by the passage of another. We have this eclipse. So, when the solar eclipse happened in 1919, it brought proof that it was accurate. Now, that explanation which he had given in 1915 proved right in the year 1919 when there was an eclipse. Einstein had correctly calculated in advance. He did it when? In 1915. And when did it come right? In 1919, after 4 years. So, 4 years in advance, he gave the accurate calculation. He had correctly calculated in advance the extent to which the light from the fixed stars would be deflected. Deflected as in it would change the direction because it hit something through the sun's gravitational field. Field as in the region in which a particular condition prevails. So through that, when the light goes, he had actually calculated the whole thing way in advance, and he told them how much it would be deflected also. He gave the accurate calculation way in advance, and it was a perfect one. The newspapers proclaimed his work as a scientific revolution. Revolution as in they announced it officially that this was a dramatic change. They actually, it was there in all the papers. Einstein received the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1921, 2 years later. He was showered with honors. Showered as in everyone just, received in great numbers. And honors is instances of being respected. And invitations from all over the world. And lauded by the press. He was highly praised, admired by the news media and the agencies. Because he had done something big. He had done something not at that point of time or even close. He had done this in advance. Way in advance he had calculated and he had told everything. And it proved absolutely right. That is what actually made him extremely famous. The world started knowing him. When the Nazis came to power in Germany in 1933, Einstein emigrated to the United States. Now remember, he was there. But what happened when the Nazis, the member of the National Socialist German Workers' Party, when they took over, when they started ruling, what Einstein did was he just emigrated. He just left to another country. And where did he go? He went to the United States. 5 years later, now that is 1938, the discovery of nuclear fission in Berlin had American physicists in an uproar. What happened was, 5 years later, the discovery of nuclear fission as in the reaction of a heavy nucleus splitting to release energy. Now again, it was playing, it was talking of energy and, he's all about it. So, the discovery of nuclear fission in Berlin had the American physicists as in the people who are expert in physics, in an uproar. They were very upset. They were worried. Why? Many of them had fled from fascism just as Einstein had, and now they were afraid the Nazis could build and use an atomic bomb. Now what had happened here was, many of them fled. They ran away from fascism. What do you mean by fascism? It is authoritarian ultra-nationalism characterized by forcible suppression. Now they were, actually forcing upon them. Even if the people did not want, they were forcing them to do things which the people did not want to do. So what did they do? These guys, they fled. They ran away from there, just like Einstein had left and come to the United States. Yes, he had left from there and he had come. But now they were afraid. These guys had done a job there. They said, what happened? The Nazis could build and use an atomic bomb. The Nazis were the mean ones. So they, could use an atomic bomb. The bomb using nuclear fission to cause damage. That can do the worst damage ever. So these people were extremely worried after doing this. At the urging of her colleague, Einstein wrote a letter to the American president, Franklin D. Roosevelt, on 2nd August 1939, in which he warned. Now, his colleagues actually, they urged him, they really persuaded him, they requested him that, look, please do something about it. Now, because he was very well known, so what he did was he wrote a letter to the American president, Franklin D. Roosevelt, on 2nd August 1939, and in that, what did he warn him? A single bomb of this type, that's atomic bomb, exploded in a port might very well destroy the whole port together with some of the surrounding territory. He said, look, if this one also bomb bursts, even if one goes, that entire port will just disappear. Along with it, whatever the territory, whatever land is surrounding it, even that will be damaged. His words did not fail to have an effect. His words actually were heard. They were taken into consideration. The Americans developed the atomic bomb in a secret project of their own. They said, we will do it, but very secretly. And they dropped it on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945. I think we're totally aware of this entire history. You've already done it, I guess, in grade 8. You're aware when the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, they were, when the bombs were dropped on them in August 1945. Einstein was deeply shaken by the extent of the destruction. He was shocked. He was terribly shocked. This time, he wrote a public missive to the United Nations. First, he had written a letter. Now, what he did was he made a public missive, as in a long official letter to the United Nations. In it, he proposed the formation of a world government. He said, let's form a world government. Unlike the letter to Roosevelt, this one made no impact. Now, Roosevelt actually considered it, right? But this one, this letter, this missive which he sent across to the United Nations, it was not considered. It made no impact. It did not have any effect. But over the next decade as in the next 10 years, Einstein got ever more involved in politics. He was famous. Once these people become famous, they generally tend to get into politics. Agitating for an end to the arms build-up and using his popularity to campaign for peace and democracy. The agitating, he wanted to actually, arouse concern in people. He did not want them to make more arms and ammunition. He did not want war. He did not want any more fights. In fact, he was looking for peace. He was a peace-loving man. So he felt that he should do something. Now, because he was very popular, he was very famous, so he took advantage of it. When Einstein died in 1955 at the age of 76, he was celebrated as a visionary. Now, visionary is a person planning the future with imagination or wisdom. They're generally people who have good success stories, who have weaved or who have come up with success stories, are visionaries. Visionaries as in they imagine it. They see, okay, I know this is good. At this point of time, this will be good. So they use their imagination and their wisdom, right? And then they actually start building the castles, not in the air. And world citizen, the inhabitant of a place, he lived the world. That's how famous he was. Of course, as much as a scientific genius. We all know he had even contributed a lot in the world of science, in the field of science, right? This is all about Albert Einstein. Interesting, wasn't it? See, we got to know so much about him, maybe some things which we weren't even aware of, his personal life, his educational life, how actually he went through so many things, and finally at the age of 76, he gave up. Gave up as in he passed away. So this tells us about him. And what is the message to all of you? Hail to the man who went through life always helping others. He was always there in service for the others, knowing no fear. He never got scared of anything. And to whom aggressiveness and resentment are alien, to whom he never attacked anybody. He never, really wanted to, fight anybody. He did not do all that. For him, all these were alien. All these negative qualities were like unknown. He kept away from it. All that he knew was he was for the people, always available, right? Just like virtually is always available for you at your service 24/7/365. So keep watching and keep smiling.